It's really quite comfortable fabric to wear. There's several other hemps. So linen is a hemp, and any other natural long fibre that is used whole, they call that a hemp. But this is cannabis hemp, and this is different in the fact that it's got multiple uses. So the stalk can be used as a building material quite readily. The flowers can be used for fun or for medicine. They've got many uses on many things. I make a lot of topical ointments and infusions and things like that. Different plants and different, using hemp based because of the endocannabinoid system, but different other plants that are used with it. So synergy, plant synergy, where it's spoken about as the entourage effect, but really it's just plant synergy, and it's how different parts of a plant can work together. And plants share a lot in common. They have different chemical structures. So.
Just try swapping.
Okay. Is that better? I think it was better the other one.
I think the other one.
Yeah, we'll stick with that one. Okay, so look, probably one of the most fascinating parts of the plant is how it fits, not just with humans, but with all creatures. Anything with a heartbeat has an affinity to cannabis, has a system in their body that uses cannabis to balance itself. And we make endocannabinoids in our own body. Our own body produces them. The plant produces lots of them. But strangely enough, they're exactly the same in all animals, and cannabinoids are taken into the body of animals the same way, and that is used for exactly the same thing in balancing, called homeostasis. And for me, that's the most fascinating part of the plant, that it's chosen a chemical route to be useful to all creatures. And what keeps cannabis as a sacred plant, I guess, and as such a useful plant, is its usefulness and its affinity with us human beings and our pets and livestock, etc. Yeah. So that's, I don't know, that's an impromptu hello, and my team didn't turn up. So, any questions? Yes. It's used as a fodder. It's used as a fodder crop. You can't legally use it as a fodder crop at the moment. That's because of the way things are, but that's just the silliness of the situation. But yes, it makes a perfectly good fodder. It needs to be mixed down with other things. You can't use it just straight. They won't like it. Mixing it, turning it into silage with molasses is a really good way of using it. Works very well that way. Don't tell them. It works for me. Now look, I think, so I've got a license to grow hemp, and so I can grow hemp and it's fine. But previous years when I was growing it illegally, you just had to play under the radar. But that was, this whole community, its economy has been based on cannabis. It's, like most of us have bought our land and sent our kids to schools off the back of the cannabis, the same as off the back of the sheep, back in the old day. And it's just the way that it works. It's an alternative economy that doesn't rely on anything outside at all. It's really quite interesting. And it's worked really well for this community.
Good question. If you can go legal to grow hemp, who in the Northern Rivers will buy the product off you, or buy the fibre or the seeds from you? That's my not sure I don't know who to sell to once I grow it.
Great question. Yeah, so that is really the big issue with growing the crop hemp. What are you going to do with it once you've grown it? You have to break open, because there's been no industry in it, we've had to break open the industry. So we have to produce things and sell them and market them and make a return from it. But it's been really very much cottage industry. So and suck it and see, you know, try it, see how it goes. And luckily, we've come across some really good products and really popular products that people want. So we're getting there, but there is no industry for it yet. We're building that. And we're doing it on a village level here, on a very small community level. So it's slow, but it's working. And if it works here, then there's no reason why it won't work, and there's no reason why it can't get bigger. But we've got to start somewhere, and this is where we're at the moment. It's been a really good journey, and we've had some great successes, but a long way to go.
What method do you use to grow?
Me personally, I'm an outdoor grower. Yeah, I just fertilise the soil, use a lot of lime. I like dolomite, so a good, strong, rich dolomite, and then whatever animal fertiliser you want to throw in there as well. And then you plant your seeds about yay deep. Get rid of the weeds, get rid of the cover. If you can have bare soil to plant into, it's ideal. Or a cover crop that grows along with it. And plant them in about yay deep at the right time of year, and it should be, if you've got good seed, you should have no problem at all. Depending on what you're trying to achieve. So if you want to achieve a flower, you're probably going to plant them two metres apart. If you're going to grow a shirt, you're probably going to plant them an inch apart. It's horses for courses. And treat them like any other plant. Give them what they want, give them the food they want, balance the soil. Nature does the rest. What method do you use? Much the same.
If you grow for fiber to make clothing, do you make your own clothing, or do you have to send it to sales competition? Is there competition from China and India or other countries who produce the clothes cheaper?
Yeah, so China produces virtually all of the hemp material on the planet. It just does. And, you know, they never stopped growing it. So when we turned it into a crime, they just kept on going. And all their military uniforms are made from hemp, their gun stocks are made from hemp, their boots are made from hemp. It's all hemp. They have a hemp economy that's thriving over there, and they sell us their rejects and, you know, their machinery for how to deal with it and the rest. But they've jealously guarded hemp that whole time that it was illegal, and it's been a boon for them. It's been wonderful for them. Their farmers do very well from it, and it's a very expensive fabric to buy. You know, like this one here, we wove this. This was woven by my family. My wife and her family wove it and sewed the shirt from it and stuff like that. But I think we are actually unique on the planet for doing that. Weaving broadloom hemp by hand is done nowhere else in the world except in Thailand, where they do it's not broad, it's quite narrow. They do a narrow fabric. So I think that my little family group are unique, and we're growing and making our own hemp clothing right from scratch. That's a pretty interesting thing.
Are you selling it here?
Yeah, we've got fabric up at the co-op, and at the hemp co-op, and down at THC, the hemp club, THC.
It's not what do you use to stitch the hemp fabric with?
Cotton.
Just straight cotton?
Yeah, cotton, linen cotton.
And you need a special needle because you keep blunting the needles with the sewing machine.
Oh yeah.
So I just wondered if you used a different tensile metal for the needle.
I'd have to ask my wife. That's way above my pay scale.
Like it's a very labour intensive. It's a very labour intensive.
Yeah, it is.
So you can't make a living.
Well, you can't hear, but so we weave it. I weave it over in Cambodia, where my wife comes from. So we weave it there, and we were able to do it for about. We pay about $1.50 a metre to weave it. So they can weave maybe 2 or 3 metres in a day. So that's that's sort of their rate of pay, and we pay bonuses and shit like that. And it's family, so it's not really a wage dependent thing. But no, the truth is you couldn't hand weave it or hand make it economically. No. No, we do a variety. Like, we've been experimenting with different methods. So some of our stuff we've exported fibre over there and had it spun there, and other yarn we bought from China.
Also, you actually export Australian
Oh, just a few little trial efforts, yes. Yeah. It's not economic. It's not economic, but it's just it's a proof of concept that it can be done, and it could, of course, be mechanised. You know, as great fabric, really useful. I like it a lot.
The biggest problem with trying to grow it, is it insect pests or mold, or say get attacked by the spring?
No, not really. The biggest problem with growing it is having an end use for it. So it's so easy to grow. You know, I could grow 100 hectares quite easily, but then what am I going to do with it? I don't spray anything at all.
Have you looked at the bricks and like getting it passed through the building code in Australia? I think there was a Western Australian company that sort of designed something pretty much like a Lego, and it's like fireproof and sequesters like carbon and gets harder over time.
Correct. Yeah. So we're working on that. We're making hemp panels using the whole stem of the plant. So we're putting in a magnesium matrix, taking the whole stem of the plant, soaking it in lime and boron, and using the whole thing. So it's very little processing. You're just soaking it, and then you're placing it into your wall. And the wall's flat on the ground. It's in a slip form. So we lay down a layer of magnesium cement, which comes from Australia, and then we lay the sticks into it and put another layer of the magnesium cement over the top, then lay the other way and ply it. And we got a 7-ply material which seems to be load-bearing. It hasn't been tested yet, but we're making them in 2.5 metre long panels, about yay wide. And yeah, it's looking good. We're not there, but it's looking good, and it'll only ever be proof of concept, because that kind of building really takes, to do it efficiently, you need big space and big machinery. You've got to industrialise it a bit, and we're not up for that. So we can do proof of concept, and then when it works, get it okayed and whatnot, and then it's up, you know, it's going to have to be, we're talking millions, but yeah, it's a doable thing. Well, you just don't tell them.
No, but when you do transferring to legalisation, is it a hard concept to go through? You know, do they grill you and, you know, is there 100 red lines that you have to, or hoops you have to jump?
I think, look, I think because it's new for the authorities too, the legal side of it, they've only got a vague grasp of what's going on.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
You know, like they didn't have any idea of the uses we could put hemp to when we started growing it. And now we've got all these things happening. You know, we've got clothing, and as building materials begin to come along. Martin's been making some fantastic carbon fibre material out of it, Martin Ernig. I think we've got a man here in the back making skateboards out of it. No? No? Wrong one. We got a guy in the village here who's making skateboard ramps out of it, and got funding to do that. So we're moving up. Yeah, well, yes, it's expensive. It's expensive paper if you're making it by hand. Again, if you To do it by hand we do, but not to make commercial amounts of bleached white paper, which is sort of what people want. There's a really nice, in the hallway, if you're going into the hallway, into the hall, there's a, on the right hand side there's a 2.6 metre by 1 metre sheet of hemp paper, and it's beautiful. It's really lovely, which we've made, but it's not commercial. It's an artwork, but as commercially, no, nothing like it.
Has it been commercialised?
Yeah, well, yeah.
If you go to get like the machinery and the factory and stuff, is that what the industry has?
Yes. Yeah, in a word, yeah. We've given away all our ability to make things. So we're learning again, we're starting from scratch. Yeah, it'll come. In time, I think it'll be forced on us. But for now, we're going to stick with wood chip paper, I guess.
Sorry, can I ask you here? Are you always direct sowing your seeds? Do you regenerate?
So depending on what I'm growing. If I'm growing for flower, I'll take cuttings. So I'll plant clones. If I'm growing for fibre, I just want a thick cover of seed. So yeah, seed drill. Just drill them very close together.
And what's the most ideal in this region? The best sow time or grow time? And how long from seed to harvest?
Totally depends on what you're growing. So again, the plant that I'm growing at the moment is a really long-term plant. It lasts 7 months. It's probably 7 months in the ground.
Can I ask the variety?
Yeah, King G. So that's a hemp plant, and it's got a really high CBD resin content in the flower, which is why I like to grow it. It's got so many other uses besides being a really vigorous plant, but it's got a very long life. It's in the ground for maturing for 6 to 7 months, which is a lot. So you can grow an industrial crop in 100 days. So the ones that you're planting close together, you'll get 2 crops a year. In this area, you'll get 2 crops a year, and there'll be 100 to 110 days germinating to finishing, which is pretty good. So if you can make 10 grand out of a hectare from your fibre, from the fibre side of it, and you can do that twice a year, that's an all right return from a hectare as far as a broadacre farmer goes. It's all right. And if you can improve product on other parts of the plant, which you certainly can, so the flower is where the money is. You know, like if you're extracting for medicinal uses or cosmetic uses, then there's quite a lot of money in the flower. So it makes it worthwhile. And then if you're making another 10 grand on top of that per hectare off your waste. But it sort of doesn't work like that. You have to aim for what it is that you want to grow. So if you were very intentional. If you were growing for flower, for instance, you wouldn't make $10,000 out of fibre out of your plants because they'd be spaced too far apart. And horses for courses too. There's other seeding plants I'm playing with right now. Is a plant called Yuma, and that grows in a single stem with a thick head of densely packed seed on the top, and it's quite good. We're getting about 4 ounces of seed from one single stem, which is a lot, especially when your plants are this far apart. And I think hemp seed is worth probably to the farmer about $5 a kilo. If you chill it, put it in a cool room, years. 5 years, no worries. I've got seed at home that's 5 years old, and I'll plant it, and it'll be fine. As soon as it gets warm, it'll start to go off. So you've got to keep it chilled. Normally it'll last about a year. You kept out of the fridge or whatever, but refrigerate it, and yeah, you get years out of it.
So as far as like sourcing seeds for a backyard grower, for example, is that difficult to do, or is it something where you ask about growers whether they
For industrial use?
No, for backyard.
Personal.
Embassy. Hemp Embassy. You get some seed from them.
It seems to be the answer for everything.
The Embassy's great. Yeah, it's been an outlet for so many things while it's been illegal, and now that they're becoming legal, it's the place to go to get stuff. I think it's pretty good.
One of the problems that I see with like commercial crop growing and stuff is that afterwards they grow the crop for a while, it kind of depletes the quality of the soil and the nutrients in the soil. How do you find that hemp plants interact with the soil? Do you need more companion plants to put nutrients back in the soil, like nitrogen, so that the plants then produce better crop? Or are you pH the hemp plants actually also putting nutrients back in the ground? It's not taking out as much as it would another crop like sugarcane or something?
Yeah, good question. The hemp plant seems to be a net benefit to the soil, particularly if you leave the stubble in. It seems to balance it pretty well and hold it together. It also improves the texture and the vitality of the soil. But if you're taking out, you've got to put back in. You just can't take it out all the time. But having said that, there's a lot of magic going on between the sunlight and the soil organisms and everything in between that is building minerals and cleaning minerals and catching minerals out of the air and putting them into the soil. So that's sort of a carbon sequestration kind of idea. Yeah, and I found, so on my plot where I've been growing cannabis for 5 years now, so I've got 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 crops through that soil, it's really good soil. And the only thing I've added back into it is every couple of years I'll put in some dolomite. That's the only additive I've given it. And no, I actually haven't given it any fertiliser at all. I haven't been fertilising at all. I've been thinking about it, but I just don't do it. Too lazy. And
Not even cover cropping in between. No cover
yeah, cover crops are great. Absolutely, yeah. Ryegrass, millet, oats, all of these things are fantastic. And they do put back in, and you dig them back in. Or, as Leon does, he grows a cover crop and then just knocks it over, presses it, and plants straight into the cover crop. Fantastic. It is a living mulch. It's fantastic. Great idea. And so many other ideas. Ryegrass, beautiful. What a lovely thing. And you dig that back in and brings the soil up. Yeah, of course. Companion. Yeah. Thank you for reminding me. Yeah, you've got to absolutely grow cover crops to put back in.
How do you go with pests? Do you have any issue with pests?
Depending on what you're growing for again, but no, except for the flower late in the season, and that's caterpillars, and that's really the only pest we've had.
And how do you mitigate that? Do you have to spray the plant with anything or net them or?
Yeah, you can do it. Molasses seems to work pretty well.
Okay.
But failing that, there's a few things on the market you can spray with. There's one called Success, which I believe hasn't got many side effects.
Is that BT? It's I forget the scientific name, but it's like a living everywhere. So
It's a fungus. Yeah, it's a natural fungus, I believe. So.
Do you personally use any sacrificial crops to keep corn off though?
No.
So for spider mite, for example, have you ever had any issues with spider mite where you catch
Oh, that's inside growing, really, the spider mites. I've never had outdoors. I've never had problem with spider mites.
So ladybugs or whatever it be?
Oh yeah. Look, if you've got a good natural biome going on and a good life system, that shouldn't be a problem outdoors. As far as I know, that only really happens with indoor grows and inside lights and stuff.
What about aerial pests? I hear they fly helicopters around.
Oh, yeah. What
What
about
about
those?
if you've got a legal crop as opposed to maybe your neighbour who's growing a not so legal crop?
Yeah, it's a pretty good question, and we get tripped up by it a few times. But you're supposed to tell the DPI when you're growing a crop. You have to. You're registered, and then you say, I planted at this stage, and la la la. And it's supposed to protect you, but it doesn't really. They still come in and occasionally take some. Yes, I think that's right.
Any pointers on improving your flowers?
Sorry?
Any pointers on improving your flowers?
Oh, yeah. No.
Just let me.
Yeah, I like to do that. You know, often the less you do is the best. That guy that wrote the One Straw Revolution, he was just a lazy man. He was a lazy man. He said, look, just don't do anything and let it take care of itself. It seems to work out. I mean, you got to be nice to it, but don't give it too many. Don't baby it along too much.
What animal manure do you use? Obviously, chicken manure being higher in nitrogen, do you recommend?
So yeah, look, if I was growing a medicinal crop and I was actually growing a plant to have big luscious heads, yeah, I'd give it lots of natural fertilizer in the soil. But for the industrial crop, not at all. Not at all. And really the industrial crop is more relevant because it takes up so much space. For the amount of medicinal plants there are, there's just not many. You know, or illegal plants, there's just not that many of them. It's little patches of a few plants. It's not a big deal. When you're talking hectares, now you're talking making differences in the ecosystem, and yeah. I think it's a really useful plant for putting back in.
Okay, guys.
Has there been any local land-raised strains like growing around here, like for flowers?
Not that I know of. Not that I know of. No.
So you mentioned before that over 5 years you've had 10 crops, which over an outdoor cycle, that 5 years will usually take to 5 seasons. How are you doing with that? So you mentioned that you're doing it on an industrial scale. Are you doing it for...
No, I'm growing an industrial crop, but I'm not doing it on an industrial scale.
Yeah. So are you using greenhouses where you're still controlling the photo period, or are you using autoflowers that allow, or are you growing from clone that are automatically under 24-hour photo period, so as soon as you bring them out, they automatically flower? How are you achieving 2 cycles per year outdoors?
So, if you've got a crop that takes 100 days to finish, so you start early in the spring, or even late winter, you start your first crop, that'll come through 100 days later, that's done, and then harvest and replant.
So what's the overall purpose of your crops? Is that for smoke pools? Is that for harvesting? What's the purpose of your crops?
No, mostly R&D. So I'm really trying to figure out different uses for it that we can use on a village level. So really, the crops I grow, they're not big enough to, maybe I'd grow a couple of hectares in a year. So it's just not industrial size. But I am making industrial use of it.
So is it a smokable product, or are you using it for bricking, for turning into compostable bricks, for houses?
Yeah, everything. I'm trying to achieve everything. I'm trying to open up different areas that we can do on a village, cottage farming level. Something that you don't need 100 acres to work with, and you don't need a bank loan to begin.
So that brings me back to that whole thing of save the tent. If you've started at the end of winter and then it's going through the 100-day cycle to call it Christmas, your photo period from winter through to Christmas, you've gone from, say, 12 hours of daylight in winter, call it, through to 16 hours of daylight in summer, which is a natural process for a plant to go through the rotating process through its photo period. So what I'm trying to determine is how you're specifically able to achieve those 2 cycles per year. Normally most people would use autoflowers where that would give that 100-day process. Yeah.
It's different, but that's a different. It depends on what you're growing for. So if you're growing for flower, then you're probably going to have autoflower. You're probably going to have all these other. You probably use lights, different things. But it's just depending on what you're growing for. But if we're talking completely industrial, I'm just growing for industrial use to make walls, to make shirts, whatever, then every 100 days you plant.
That's where I was confused as well. That's why when before I asked, are you using it, are you doing it for smoke walls as well as industrial purposes?
I do it for everything.
Yeah.
But in minuscule quantities.
Of course.
You know, I mean,
Me too.
a couple of hectares. How much damage can I cause?
How do you get your seed? Do you have like a seed crop that you do every so
Yeah,
often?
I grow my seed.
Hey, Gerald,
Yeah, in a discreet area.
a little bit off the topic, but I once saw a man down here making solar panels using hemp for charcoal or something. Do you know anything about that?
Yeah, that's pretty arcane. So that's graphene. That's using the lignins in the plant and cooking them at huge temperatures with no oxygen and turning them into graphene, or a graphene-like substance. But yeah, we're not up for that yet. Maybe next year.
So when you're going through your seed cycle as well, do you care of its sex? Do you care if you have male and female plants within your crops?
Depending on what I'm growing it for. If I'm growing it for flower, yeah, males, not welcome.
What are your thoughts on feminized seeds? Personally, not a fan, but do you think it eventually brings in hermaphroditism?
Look, it depends on how you do it. You can chemically achieve it, or you can naturally achieve it. You can create a feminized seed in your plant by keeping males away from it, but growing it on so it's perfectly healthy. Every now and again, if you do the right things to it, and the chemical you use is the chemical that's given off by rotting fruit. So that's the thing that triggers. Well, I don't know. I'd have to look that one up, but it's something like that. But that's what triggers the female plant to put out what appears to be a male pistil and fertilise itself.
Is that the same as growing a plant for too long and it gets fertilisation, or?
Well, if it'll only get fertilised, it'll self-fertilise, but it'll self-fertilise with a double X chromosome, because there's no Y chromosome in the event. So you end up with all your seed will only be feminine. It's only got the X chromosome in there.
What stage of the plant do you take your cuttings?
You can take them any time, but preferably before they begin to head. Yeah, and take it from the softer part of the plant, not where it gets woody. So, but that's it's a bit of an art. You do it a lot of times, have a lot of failures, and it comes right. But,
Are you using a rooting agent on those cuttings?
Yep, honey.
When you are taking your cuttings, what form of cutting process are you doing in the sense of what's your medium? Are you using
Honey.
So that's your rooting, that's your sterilisation and your rooting engine, I suppose. But are you using like uniculi, or are you using an aeroponic system?
Jiffy pots, just peat moss.
Is there any specific industrial machinery that local growers need in the area? Something that's missing that
Yeah, but thanks to China, there's a lot of small machinery we can get straight from China that covers it, because they do it there and they do it cheaply there. So it's been useful. China's been very useful in our progressing with the hemp thing. So yeah, we've got a lot of things. Decorticators, which strips the bark off the stem. You know, you can get one of those from China for about $3,000. So that's pretty good. All those things are okay.
The government often subsidises industry like logging. Is there been any interest in perhaps the government putting money into processing
No, not yet. They've got some big grants up in Queensland, I believe, but no, nothing here yet. No, we just get regulated. Yep, absolutely. But we do need the big machinery to do it, and we're a long way from that. I don't think government's relevant. I think we need. Yeah, big business. I don't know. I just don't trust big business. You know, like we've got to trust ourselves here. Yeah. Well, we've done that. We've got the co-op up here, and we've applied for a grant, but we got knocked back. It just didn't fit the criteria they were looking for. It'll come, but it shouldn't. It really isn't that relevant. We've got to learn to do this ourselves, and I can do proof of concept stuff. I can do little small scale things, and working with the geniuses around here, I can get these things happening, but really only in tiny. Yeah, it'd be handy. But then you're sort of pushing a piece of string, you know, like until the demand for the thing is there, the farmers aren't going to plant the seed, and it's that cycle that you've got to prime. So by creating, hopefully by creating different things, we'll get those things primed, and they'll grow from there. And I'm happy with where we are. You know, we could be a lot more further advanced, but I'm pretty happy with where we are. We're coming along. All right, guys. Well, that was a pleasure for me.
Thank you.
Thanks for your interest.